Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to dive into a tier list for the Revenant release. I think it's 0.3, version 0.3 patch. Now, I'm trying to do this thing where I don't look back at my other tier list because things change and I can explain them in the moment with how I'm feeling now. And tier lists are always subjective, so this is just my opinion. You can obviously feel free to comment yours down below in the comment section. Drop a like, subscribe for the future, or subscribe to the channel for future Predecessor content. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to be diving into a tier list for the most recent version 0.3 Revenant release patch. And yeah, I'm trying to do this thing where I don't really look back at my previous tier list to kind of jog my memory at all. I just want to feel my thoughts in the moment, explain my thoughts, and then of course tier list is subjective, so feel free to drop a comment in the comments down below letting me know your thoughts as well. Drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Predecessor content, and let's dive into it. So yeah, my mind is pretty much made up on a lot of these picks, and I want to go ahead and start with one of my notorious takes, Feng Mao's D tier. This hero's just he's not getting any love in patches. He's an okay hero at kind of best, and you know, whether it's off lane, mid, or jungle, there's just nothing that he can do that anyone else can really do better, except for maybe have a lot of mobility, and that unfortunately does not win you games or win you fights a lot of the time. So yeah, Feng Mao not living his best life. Now let me do something different, and let's talk about the mages in the game. Now, the mages in the game, this is probably the thing about this current patch that has me scratching my head the most. I just think they're almost all good. Now, I'm going to exclude Belica, and I guess it kind of forces my hand to put Belica also in D tier. I just don't think she's a super great support, and she's not a super great mage. Keep in mind, tier lists are relative, so their position on the tier list is relative to the strength of other heroes on the list. But this is genuinely how I feel about the mages in the game right now. I just think they are literally all good. Where's Howitzer? And then the one exception, which I think I actually kicked her down and now I'm putting her back up with some more context, is Countess. I think Countess is so ridiculously strong, and a lot of my opinions have shifted and changed a little bit with the most recent Agora tournament, because draft really does show you a lot. If you don't have any context, my team TOS played in a draft tournament. We were able to take first place, and that tournament showed me a lot about the current strength of heroes and how people are prioritizing them and how we can prioritize them in picking. And yeah, I think Countess is an absolute S tier, but mages in general right now are really strong. They feel really solid. They can all get the job done, and they're good for different things. Ooh, I have an alarm on my phone going off. Nice, wake up. So yeah, mages are incredibly strong, and I definitely don't think that they should be viewed too much differently in terms of their strength level, because they're good at different things. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. Let's go ahead and dive into a C tier pick. I think it's going to be Crunch. So my opinion on Crunch hasn't changed very much either. If anything, he got a little bit worse technically with the most recent patch, because now you can't get your passive ult heal on minion waves. So really weird change to me. I think that this character has been not performing super great. He's kind of feast or famine pub stomper, but as far as like a competitive setting goes, or more objective view on balance, he just doesn't really do much after, like, I always talk about it, I say the same thing. He has like a window of power spike between level 6 and level 11, and I think once you hit like level 11, for the rest of the game he just gets worse and worse, and unless he's getting giga fed. Like if you, yeah, sure, if you get, you know, 15 plus kills on him, you're going to carry a game, but you could do that better with anybody else too. So off lane jungle, it's kind of a similar situation to Feng Mao, only I think he's more viable than Feng Mao at least. So he's got that going for him, which lands him in the C tier, but not the strongest thing in the game to me. All right, let's talk about support. So I'm just kind of doing this random thing where I bounce around. Let's do the support discussion. Let's go on ahead and go with Richter and Decker, both phenomenal picks. And just to let you know, A tiers are bloated in this game because A tier, or a lot of the balance in this game, is really good. Decker and Richter are incredibly strong. They bring a lot of CC to the table. They actually have a good lane matchup against each other. One of them's tanky and provides a lot of CC with the front line. The other one's a backliner that can bring some good CC and disruption with the cage, with the range stun, with the ultimate. They're both really, really, really solid supports. As for Muriel is like, I don't know if B tier fits her. I think the thing with it, there's just such a big stretch between the hero balance of supports that Muriel kind of lands herself in C tier to me. I don't think she's bad. And in fact, I think I'm actually even pulling Narbash up to her level a little bit, because Narbash could actually be pretty decent in like a pick ban setting as well. Although I don't think we're quite there yet. I think both of these supports are good. They're just it's relative strength again. They're so far behind the viable options that are in the support role, mainly being Decker and Richter, but also a couple characters that we're going to talk about here in just a second, being Rampage and Steel. So I think we'll go on ahead and dive into that. Rampage and Steel, both S tier. Here's the reason why. Rampage is the best jungler in the game. He is one of the better supports in the game. Not kidding. Yes, it's actually true. You find this a lot in a draft setting, but even just playing ladder, if you want to have a solid support pick, you pick Rampage with the crest that leads to Sanctification. You build him really, really tanky, maybe bring a Vanguardian to the team, and you just scale into late game, you scale into mid game as a tank, a really, really strong tank that brings a ton of CC and disruption, and a little bit of decent damage as well. So as far as the jungle role goes, absolutely the best jungler. As far as support goes, a really, really solid support. Steel is the same thing, one of the best offlaners, a pretty damn good jungle. I played him jungle in the tournament, and then a really solid support. So you have to look at the flexible roles of other characters that are objectively just really, really high viability, and then you have to compare that to, say, Muriel, Narbash. So that's why Muriel, Narbash unfortunately land themselves in C tier. It's really not because they're that bad, it's because they're not Rampage, Steel, Richter, or Decker. So unfortunately, they get themselves shoved down quite a bit. You know what? Let's go on ahead and end off my opinion of the S tier with Revenant. I think Revenant is like super, super broken. He just absolutely does ridiculous damage. His ultimate is super, super oppressive and annoying. And while he doesn't have any mobility, he just hits like a damn truck. I think Revenant is probably the best carry in the game in my opinion right now, and yeah, it's really, really strong. That said, let's go ahead and dive into the other carries, because I do think there's a bit of a separation that's changed my tier list quite a bit. I think before I've just put all the carries together, but I do think that Drongo stands out quite a bit, which means for me, B tier is going to populate with Sparrow and Murdoch. No, it doesn't mean that Sparrow and Murdoch are bad, and this is where it's a little bit weird, because I wouldn't even compare Sparrow and Murdoch to like the viability of the mages. It's just the mages are all on one tier together, in my opinion. They all just stand together in viability, but Drongo does sit a little bit higher in viability, barely. I'm talking barely from Sparrow and Murdoch. So realistically, if I did this, it'd be fine. Doesn't really matter, but this is what I'm thinking about in terms of tier list separation. So yeah, Sparrow, Murdoch, really solid. Drongo stands out a little bit more for the carries. Let's look at our last four picks, of which we're going to put Sevarog on the list. Sevarog is he's pretty solid. I think I've almost consistently kept him in B tier. He feels great. I mean, he just feels consistently strong, but he is not the strongest pick. So if it's a jungle Sevarog, not the strongest pick you could pick there. If it's an offlane Sevarog, not the strongest pick you could pick there. But he's tanky and he scales phenomenally. So he's not a bad pick at all, just not the strongest pick. Pretty solid. Chimera is one of the best junglers in the game. Definitely lands himself a spot in the A tier. Feels very, very strong and consistent. Unfortunately, is not Rampage and has way less flexibility. He can't be played offlane. He can't really be played support. He's a jungler, so he's kind of role locked, which lessens his viability a little bit, but really, really strong jungler. Incredibly strong jungler. As for solo queue, sure, I would probably put Kallari S tier, but objectively speaking, I think Kallari is just a really solid B tier. Really, really solid assassin jungle style character. Can probably get a little bit of viability out of mid, but not really my concern. Kallari is just solid. really solid character. And then offlane, one of the best offlaners in the game is going to be Grux. So like I said, I know my A tier is bloated. It's mostly bloated because of the mages, and again, the 4 mages that I have in A tier are just like, they're all the same in viability, in my opinion. They just bring different things to the table. They really do. And they're all really solid. Grux being a really phenomenal potential jungle flex, but really solid offlaner, to kind of end my thoughts on that. And this is what I'm thinking. I know I've changed some things around just based on my own opinions, not even just necessarily based on the way that the patch has changed, but this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling. It's funny. I think the thing that stands out to me the most is the supports. Like, I literally have Narbash and Muriel just dropped so low, because there's just so many viable supports when you factor in the fact that Steel and Rampage are also really high tier supports. So this is my thoughts, friends. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like in the video, subscribe for future Predecessor content. As always, be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.